What's up, everybody? I'm Chase Lee, and welcome back to another movie review. And the movie I want to take a look at right now is The Lion King 2019 edition, and this one is directed by Jon Favreau. And yes, this is a remake, a enhanced animated version of the 1994 classic that we all, love and cherish. Especially people that were born in the 80s and grew up in the 90s, or people like me that were born in 1990. And this was kind of like our movie as a real small child, and so this film means a lot to a lot of people. And so going into this movie, I watched the trailers to it and I'm like, wow, this is some really great rendered CGI. It is absolutely jaw-dropping. And so I was hoping if you enhance the kind of animation in HD form, we could still have the emotion and the characters and everything we love about the original. And so I was optimistic. I was like, this film looks like it could be something. However, with like Beauty and the Beast, Alice in Wonderland, didn't see Dumbo yet, and then like Aladdin, I didn't like. It's like I haven't liked any of these movies so far. So, is The Lion King gonna turn that tide? Well, I'll tell you in just a second. My brief history with the original, I'm not like really, that was my stomach. I'm not like really tied to the original. I'm not like, an original purist per se, but it was the original four that I got started with as a kid and really kind of grew up to love in film, which was, The Lion King, Beauty and the Beast, Aladdin, and The Little Mermaid from back in the early 90s / 89. And so this film does mean a lot to me, but I also am open to changes, to reimaginings, whatever you want to do, as long as you make a good movie. I guess my Disney check didn't clear yet because this movie's not good. No. But in all seriousness, this movie is bad. I thought Aladdin was as far to the bottom of the barrel as we could go. I think this one reaches a new low. I don't like about 90% of this movie, and the 10% I do like are a couple of the voice talent and, of course, the stunning backgrounds and the settings of this film. And so, yeah, it's something. So I'm gonna try to break it down as best as I can, because I know a lot of people out there are gonna watch this. They're gonna love it. I know a lot of people love the Aladdin movie, Beauty and the Beast. So trust me, I'm in the minority here, but let me try to explain myself. So, to start with the actual animation itself, because that seems like where everyone is kind of jumping off from, like, oh wow, it's stunning animation. This is stunning and gorgeous, and I'm not going to disagree with that. I think the environments, the desert, the forests, the caves, the rocks, the grass, the trees, the sky, the water, all that is phenomenal. It's photorealistic. It is stuff that I couldn't even imagine watching as a kid. Like, that would just blow my mind. And so I get where people are coming from, and that's like their main selling point for this movie, and I agree with that. The actual characters themselves are animated fairly well. The photorealism is a little, it's off-putting at first when the animals start talking, but for some of the characters, you can get into it, and it can be a lot of fun. Here's where the problem with the actual animation comes from, is the actual mechanics of the animals. Now, when you're doing hand-drawn animation, like in the original Lion King, you can be a little fantasy, kind of fantasy, like, almost like science fiction. You can have like these animals jump up and down, kind of roll over. You can have them sing, random songs. It's something that it feels out of this world because it's hand-drawn animation. It's a little whimsical. That's the word I was looking for. There you go. It finally caught up to me. It's a little whimsical. It's a little out there, but you accept it. You can suspend your disbelief in that style of animation. When you're making photorealistic animation, your characters need to have weight to them. They need to feel like real animals. a lot of these animals are still flopping around everywhere and still doing the movements of like a hand-drawn animation, and that's off-putting. But the worst thing about it is the mechanics of them walking and them talking. So when they're walking around, I think for the most part, it's fine. There's several shots where like a lion's like kind of walking across the scene and like there's just something wrong with their joints. It doesn't feel fluid. It feels a little kind of not even robotic, just kind of like it's missing a couple of frames. It's very weird. And then to top on all this weirdness cake, the little weirdness cherry on top, is the mouths. When you're, kind of going just up and down and maybe somewhat moving the corners of your mouth a little bit kind of up and to the side, that's not enough to convince me that these animals are talking and these voices are coming out of their mouths. Everything, it felt like the audio track was one step behind, like one frame behind, and it felt like the mouths were always trying to catch up. And so it's either poor animation or poor lining up with their mouths. Something just fell off about the mechanics of the way they speak, and it's just it didn't look as fluid as something like a hand drawn. Once again, if you want to do photorealistic animation, that's fine, but you need to make sure that these mouths are moving to the appropriate enunciations and words, just everything. So with the whole like moving up and down with the mouth, right? You don't have that personality. You don't have that flair that the original hand-drawn animation has. What you have is this robotic kind of line reading from these performances, and it just makes it 10 times worse. And I promise that I will stop comparing it to the original. You're supposed to judge it on its own. I apologize. But this is kind of the problem we run into with photorealistic animation. Yeah, it looks great, but does it actually work for your story and your characters? And in this case, no. So with the mouths feeling robotic and not really working with the dialogue coming out, I gotta tell you, besides Seth Rogen, Billy Eichner, Chiwetel Ejiofor, maybe Alfre Woodard, everyone else is like okay to bad. And it's some of the worst casting choices I've seen in a long time for any type of animated film. To start with the good, Seth Rogen and Billy Eichner, they inject that energy that you want into Timon and Pumbaa. It took me a while to kind of get into it, but once I got into it, some of their jokes actually worked, and their chemistry back and forth was nice. It's just, that was a nice pairing. Chiwetel Ejiofor as Scar, he was great. He was menacing. He had that weight to him. He was a threat. I felt that. His actual design of his lion looked a little off, but he was actually giving it his all, and I appreciate that 1,000%. Everyone else was baffling. John Oliver as Zuzu. I always I guess I have like some type of dyslexia because it's like Zizu or Zuzu. The bird. I didn't believe it at all. It's like if you are going to cast these people to voice these characters, I have to suspend my disbelief and really believe that these animals were one, talking, and two, talking in that tone and that style and in that voice. I did not feel that with John Oliver. Totally miscast in my opinion. Beyonce was fine. She was actually the better out of the bunch. James Earl Jones felt like he had a good paycheck. God bless the man. Get called up to do the same role you did like over 20 years ago, and you got paid pretty well. But it was just line readings, just going through the motions, and we'll get into that in just a second. Keegan-Michael Key and Eric Andre as the hyenas, I get why you would want to cast them. They're zany, funny dudes. I know Eric Andre is a bit of a certain taste for people. That's what I was trying to. It's been a long day, guys. A bit of subjectivity to him. And I get why you would cast him. I heard their voices. I did not hear these characters. It was so weird to me that on paper, it seems like they casted the most perfect people. But when you heard their voices come out of their mouths, that's all I heard. I didn't hear any like type of personality to these hyenas or anything. It was just kind of like, it was just them riffing a sound booth. It's not what I want. And believe it or not, the worst offender is Donald Glover. I was rooting for him as Simba. Everything about his delivery was bad. It was like first recording line reads. Beyonce acted better than him, and they have the most screen time together. I don't know. Like, once again, on paper, you figure Donald Glover would be the most perfect casting for Simba as adult Simba. What happened? Just everything that happened with his delivery was just so like, hey guys, hey Timon, hey Pumbaa, what's going on? Hey guys, what's going on? I'm gonna come get you, Scar. Scar, you're so bad. You're just a bad lion, bad uncle. It just, everything about it just seemed off to me. It was not convincing and just seemed really just, I'm reading off of a page and not adding any type of energy to it or personality, kind of like what Seth and Billy did with Timon and Pumbaa. The kids that voiced young Simba and young Nola, they were fine because their voice carried through these characters. They're supposed to be little cubs, and you know their light, innocent voices, like it worked for that. But some of their line reading was pretty bad too. So I said that, James Earl Jones just felt like he was going through the motions. That's what Jon Favreau was doing here as director. I usually like Jon Favreau as a director. I think he's pretty solid for the most part, and then he comes out with a few good gems like a Maid or Iron Man or Chef. He was sleepwalking through this. I didn't feel like there was any creativity behind this, no vision. It just felt like this is Aladdin all over again. Let's checklist. All right, we did the opening. Circle of Life, boom, slap with the title. All right, cliff scene, here we go. Which, by the way, the cliff scene, the Mufasa cliff scene, unintentionally funny. I don't get it. We gotta do When He Meets Timon, Pumbaa, boom, songs, boom. It's just everything about it was just like checklist, go. And then once it was done, it was just like that was boring. When you have a checklist movie and you got to get through certain scenes, it makes it for a boring watch. And you're sitting there just wondering when it could be over with. So it was a slog to sit through. And running at 2 hours, which is like 30 or 40 minutes beyond the 1994 runtime, yeah, it felt padded. It felt like it was dragging its feet, trying to give you some extra material to make it worthwhile in the theater, and it just falls flat because they don't feel like they're trying. I don't want to call Jon Favreau lazy because he is not a lazy filmmaker. But this was a bad day at the office, and it felt like he was not trying. I don't like this movie whatsoever. I mean, I don't know what else more to say. I didn't really enjoy myself, and I wanted to get out of there as soon as possible. The funniest part of the night, well, actually, one real sad part about our culture, and then one funny part. The funny part was they played Ad Astra and Cats, those trailers in front of the movie. Hilarious. I'm assuming the Cats trailer scared about half of the kids in the audience. And speaking of kids, there was a kid next to me that was asleep the entire time. Hilarious. And then the sad state that we live in right now is that nostalgia is a heck of a drug. And these companies will just put stuff in front of you and be like, oh, don't worry, it's just like the original. We just made the animation HD. We're just showing off all of our really cool animated farms that we got going on in the Disney company. And it does nothing for me. And then people in the audience, like, when Circle of Life was playing, like, clapping, and then when the title came up, clapping, like, woo, 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 woo. It's like they were brainwashed. It was weird. It was weird to witness because they did the same thing in Aladdin. They did the same thing in Beauty and the Beast. there's nothing wrong with enjoying yourself, but want more out of movies than just, oh, it's just like the original. Because why? Just watch the original. You'll be fine. I'm going to give this a D. I'm only giving it a D because the animators worked their tails off in this movie, and the environments are absolutely stunning. And to some degree, most of the animals look pretty great as well. It's really impressive work. It is groundbreaking animation and technology, but everything else around it kind of crumbles. A D for me for The Lion King 2019. I'm assuming I'm in the minority, so please let me know down below why you liked it. I like to read everyone's comments and just know what you thought and tell me where I'm wrong. So let me know down below what you thought of The Lion King 2019 and what you think of the original. But that will do it for this review, guys. I'm Chase Lee, and tune in next time for whatever I review next. I will see you guys later.